Born in 1967, Massimiliano Allegri played football from a young age. He started his playing career in 1985 and has moved from club to club, earning 374 appearances and 56 goals. Looking back on his career, two clubs seem to have managed to keep him for more than 1 or 2 seasons, and those are Pescara and Livorno, with Livorno being his hometown. Most of his career being spent at Pescara though. The last season of his playing career was spent with Alianese in 2002-2003. In fact, Alianese was the first club where Allegri tried his hand at management. Following an impressive season with them, Allegri was called to head Grosseto, then in Serie C1, but his experience with the Biancorossi proved not to be as successful as with Alianese, and he was ultimately sacked shortly after the beginning of the 2006-2007 Serie C1 season. In his first season in charge, Allegri led Milan to their first championship title since 2004, beating rivals Inter Milan in both games played that season. Allegri's Milan side, however, failed to make it past the semi-finals of the Italian Cup, losing to Palermo 4-3 on aggregate. The team also competed in the knockout stage of the UEFA Champions League, where they were eliminated by none other than Tottenham Hotspur. Success continued though in his second season at the club. He led Milan to their 6th Super Cup trophy. Another semi-final in the Italian Cup followed, where the team was eliminated by Juventus. And in the UEFA Champions League, it was Barcelona who beat them in the quarterfinals. In the league, Juventus managed to get the better of Milan again, winning the league title ahead of the Rossoneri. Along with Adriano Galliani, Allegri drew criticism for his decision to sell veteran deep line playmaker Andrea Pirlo to Juventus after excluding him from the starting 11 the previous season and deeming him to be a surplus due to his age, but Pirlo went on to play a key role in Juventus' victorious Serie A title. With the departure and retirement of several of the club's key players, Milan struggled at the beginning of the 2012-2013 season and had only collected 8 points from their first 7 games, putting Allegri in danger of being sacked early on. Despite all the criticism, Milan stuck with Allegri and he managed to get the best out of some young players including Stefan El Shaarawy, Milan's homegrown player Mattia De Sciglio, and later on Mario Balotelli. Allegri managed to steer the Rossoneri from 16th place to a 3rd place finish at the end of the season with a 2-1 comeback victory away to Siena. The result gave Milan a spot in the playoff round for the 2013-2014 Champions League campaign. Following his time in Milan, Allegri decided that a change in scenery was needed. So, he took over a Juventus squad which was on the rise during that period. And it has proved to be a good decision as in 2015, Juventus and Allegri won the Serie A title. More so, the club reached the UEFA Champions League final after eliminating Real Madrid. Juventus won the domestic double 2 weeks later and were getting ready for the big final of the season. However, Barcelona got the better of them 3-1 and managed to lift the coveted European trophy. Mario Mandzukic and Paulo Dybala joined the club the next season and Juventus hit the ground running. They won the Super Cup and later the Serie A title again. They also won the Italian Cup, becoming the first team in Italy to win back-to-back domestic doubles. The next season, the Cup and the League were won again by Juventus, making it the 6th consecutive league title for the club. In June 2017, Allegri played his second UEFA Champions League final, this time against Real Madrid, but suffered a 4-1 defeat. He won his 4th consecutive Italian Cup trophy in a 4-0 win over Milan, and 4 days later, following a 0-0 draw with Roma, he secured his 4th consecutive Serie A title, becoming the first manager in Europe's top 5 leagues to win 4 consecutive doubles. Allegri left Juventus in 2019 with a win percentage of 70.48%, the highest in the history of Juventus to date. And because he was so good, he came back 2 years later to take over the club once again, and on the 15th of January 2022, he reached his 30th match on the bench with Juventus in the league return game to Udinese. In March, Juventus were eliminated from the 2021-2022 UEFA Champions League after a 3-0 home defeat to Villarreal. This time around, Allegri's spell with the Bianconeri wasn't as fruitful. The club ended the season trophyless, and in the following one, they finished 3rd in a Champions League group stage for the first time since 2013-2014. His second season upon his return ended up trophyless again after a 2-1 loss to Sevilla after extra time in the Europa League semi-finals. In May 2024, he was sent off in Juventus' 1-0 victory over Atalanta in the 2024 Italian Cup final. With the victory, he became the first manager to win the title 5 times. Following the game, he was reported to have angrily attacked the referees, threatened a journalist, and waved off sporting director Cristiano Giuntoli during the post-match celebrations. He was sacked just 2 days later, reportedly in large part due to the incident. At this point, I have to say that some people should know when to end a particular spell or era. In May 2025, Massimiliano Allegri returned to AC Milan after 11 years, taking over after Sergio Conceição was sacked. The club is currently on the way to finishing second in a season dominated by Inter Milan, but I followed AC Milan closely and their style of play resembled an era that seems to have gone years ago, a form of catenaccio that confused most of the teams in the league. I might say that Allegri's preferred formation is the 3-5-2, sometimes with a low block, but I would be mistaken. He has also used an attacking brand of football, sometimes laid out as a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2. Goalkeeper Buffon, for example, continued to primarily play the ball out from the back with short ground passes to the defenders, but he also began to use deeper goal kicks out to the wings. The fluidity of Juventus' formations under Allegri allowed talented players more freedom and creative license, enabling the midfielders to make attacking runs into the area. Despite implementing several changes, he still managed to preserve Juventus' defensive organization and strength. This was further demonstrated by his tendency to switch to the 3-5-2 in the final 20 minutes of closely contested matches. He played behind the ball with 2 deep, tight defensive lines when facing teams that dominated possession. This style of play is more visible, once again, during the current season with the Rossoneri. They start most of the games attacking with a positive attitude, and as soon as they score, especially if it's the first goal of the game, they retreat in a low block. I was mostly amazed by the work rate of all the players in Milan's various first teams this season. Luka Modric and even Rafael Leao worked tirelessly to close down channels and recover the ball, and the counterattacks were often clinical. And this is the style of play I tried to implement in my save, a Building a Nation 1 with FCSB in Romania. The formation is a 3-5-2 with the goalkeeper being a sweeper 1 on support. I know Mike Maignan doesn't really fulfill that role, but it will make sense later. The back three is made of 2 wide center backs and 1 central defender. The right-sided wide center back is on defense duty, having no player instructions besides the base ones. His role is to stretch the shape of the team while we are in possession of the ball and to tuck in when we are defending. The left-sided wide center back is on support duty just to shake things up and to cover his side of the pitch more, as the wingback is supposed to get up the pitch quite often. No player instructions other than the base one. The central defender is on cover duty to make sure that in the event of a counter-attack, he is there to cover rather than being caught up the field. The wingbacks are a complete wingback on attack duty on the right side and a wingback on attack on the left side. The complete wingback is asked to take more risks and dribble more, to get up the pitch, stretch out shape, and occupy the opposing winger and fullback as much as possible. The wingback is largely doing the same, but maybe with a lower frequency than his right-sided teammate. He's asked to stay wider to stretch the pitch. Both roles are designed to help the team in possession as well, as the lack of wingers creates a natural stress point in the midfield and passing options needed to be created. I chose a defensive midfielder and a regista for the 2 defensive midfielder roles. The defensive midfielder is on support duty, as he may help when the team is in possession of the ball, although his main role is to stop counterattacks and recycle the ball as soon as it was recovered. Yet further forward was assigned as the player instruction. The regista is Luka Modric. I wanted a metronome, a player that can dictate tempo and arrive in the opposition's half when needed. Naturally, this role has player instructions of take more risks and run from position, which pair very well with how I noticed Modric played for AC Milan. And the central midfielder on support completes the midfield roles. I asked this player to dribble less and move into channels, as I needed him to pass the ball as soon as the chance appeared and to move into channels to create overloads to find pockets of space to attack into. That's why the wingbacks are important, as they need to pair with this role and the regista one to help the attacks. The strikers are a deep line forward on support and an advanced forward. There's no natural role for Rafael Leao in my setup, so I think this is the role for him. I asked this player to stay wider, so to start his attacks from a wider position and to roam around. I don't really like the support duty for this role in FM, but it makes sense given the player instructions, as otherwise the player would just push up against the defense. And the advanced forward needs no explanations. The mentality is positive and the tactic was built on a fluid counter-attack template. In possession, fairly wide attacking width, play out of defense, shorter passing diagonals, and the standard tempo. and play for set pieces. In transition, counter-press, counter, and distribute the ball quickly to the center backs through short kicks. And out of possession, a mid-block and a higher defensive line. The defensive line's height is the reason the goalkeeper is a sweeper one, as he needs to compensate for the defense being high up the pitch. I know I mentioned a couple of times that Milan play with a low block, catenaccio style under Allegri, and they do, but this kind of setup in FM, especially in FM24, is detrimental to your team's results. It just invites pressure and the opposition almost always scores against you. So, my counter for it is a mid-block to emulate how Milan sets up, and a higher defensive line to compress space and trap the midfield area, making it like a catenaccio style but higher up the pitch. And it worked. In my save, we conceded 27 goals across 40 games in the regular season plus the playoff stage. Trigger press is more often, get stuck in and trap outside to emphasize on the compressed space and make the opposition suffer in order to get to our goal. As a result, I guess you have already figured out that we have won the league. Domestically, we were runners-up in the Super Cup and got knocked out of the Romanian Cup. Just for context, I rotated heavily in the cup and the format is weird, so let's just leave it there. On the European stage, we managed to reach the league stage of the UEFA Champions League, which is a big achievement for a team such as ours. But we only managed to get a 2-2 draw against Tottenham, which might not be a good result in the end, I guess. Overall, the tactic is a solid one, and I know it's not for everyone, but I like watching Milan play under Allegri only for the tactical side of the game. I know it's not appealing, but for 11 players to coordinate so well without the ball and to even get the results is the proper fit in my opinion. Massimiliano Allegri though gives me mixed feelings. He elevated Juventus to heights the team has never been in recent decades, but he also led them through very bad results. Clearly, he's a manager with ample football knowledge who is tactically astute and can produce big nights for teams. I hope he's going to continue the work he started at AC Milan, and we can possibly see Italian teams push again for European trophies.